Department of Commerce and Management Studies, St. Thomas College Autonomous Thrissur proudly presents webinar on Impact of COVID on the Future of Commerce and Management Education, Insightful Discussion. A warm welcome to all. Me myself, Lily Wilson, Faculty Coordinator, Department of Commerce and Management Studies.
We are really blessed to have our resource person, Dr. Alexander Praveen Durai, Head of Commerce Department, St. Joseph College, Trichy, and author for Peers in Education. Me myself, Amson Simon, Faculty Coordinator, Department of Commerce and Management Studies. By invoking the blessings from Almighty, let's begin. First, I would like to invite Mrs. Alice N.K., HOD for Management Studies, St. Thomas College, Thrissur, for welcoming all.
Good afternoon. Warm welcome for today's webinar on the impact of COVID on future of commerce and management education organized by the Department of Commerce and Management Studies, St. Thomas College, Autonomous Thrissur. Now, I would like to welcome our beloved college principal, Dr. K.L. Joy. Welcome, sir. Today, for this webinar session, we have the resource person, Dr. F. Alexander Praveen Durai, the Head of the Department, Associate Professor, the Dean of the School of Management Studies, UGC Affairs at St. Joseph College, Autonomous Trichy. A renowned person, authored many books related to management stream. Then I express my warm welcome to the Commerce Head of the Department, Mr. Geoffrey T.J., IQAC coordinators, all the dignitaries, participants, etc. I hope today's webinar will be thought-provoking and much valuable to everyone. Now, without further ado, I will turn the time over to our college principal. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Joy KL, Principal for St. Thomas College, Autonomous, Thrissur, to deliver the keynote address.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome. Respected resource person, Dr. F.R. Alexander Praveen Durai, IQC Coordinator, Dr. Father Anil George, Head of the Department of Management of Studies, Mrs. Alice N.K., Mr. Geoffrey T.J., Head of the Department of Commerce, faculty members, and my dear students. It gives me a great pleasure that the Department of Management Studies and Commerce organize a national webinar on impact of COVID-19 on the future of commerce and management education, insightful discussion. I wholeheartedly welcome and thank Professor Praveen Durai for the generosity and fraternity he has shown to our college. We know digital commerce and management learning has many advantages in itself, like digital learning has no physical boundaries. It has more learning engagement experience rather than the traditional learnings. It is also cost effective and the students get to learn in the confines of their comfort zone. The educational institutions in India, from schools to universities, can use this present adversity as a blessing in disguise and make online education a major part of the learning process for all learners in the future. So the topic selected for this webinar is very relevant. I truly acknowledge and appreciate the initiative by the Commerce and Management Studies Department and IQAC. I wish all the success to this webinar on impact of COVID-19 on the future of commerce and management education. Insightful discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for great words. Over to a brief profile of the resource person. Dr. F. Alessandro Praveen Dure, Head and Associate Professor, St. Joseph College, Trichy. He is the Director for Pondicherry University and St. Joseph College MBA Training Program. He has served as Dean for School of Management Studies and UGC Affairs at St. Joseph College Autonomous Tiruchirappalli, Tamil Nadu from 2012 to 2016. He was a member secretary of College with Potential for Excellence program of St. Joseph College. He has worked as a visiting faculty at Tiruchirappalli branch of Southern Indian Regional Council of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Dr. Alexander serves as UGC Paramesh Academic Ambassador for Don Sikos College, Tanjavur. Now, let's have a glance through some of his books which have received a great notice. Human Resource Management, published by Pearson Education, first, second, and third edition, and which is suggested as a textbook by AICTE in its model syllabus for PG Diploma in Management program. Principles of Management, published by Pearson Education in 2015. The second edition in 2009. He has authored a custom book on management along with Philip Kotler and 6 other foreign authors for Gujarat Technological University, and the profile continues. We are really happy, proud and blessed to have a session conducted by him. Now, without wasting much time, I would like to invite Dr. Alexander Praveen Dure to start his session. Now it's all yours, sir.
Respected management of St. Thomas College, Tiruchur, respected principal of St. Thomas College, head of the Department of Commerce and Management Studies, coordinators, faculty coordinators, professors of St. Thomas College, students of St. Thomas College, and my beloved participants of this webinar on the impact of COVID-19 on future of commerce and management education. Before I go ahead with the topic, let me begin with the personal note. In several ways, I am associated with St. Thomas College. I have been to St. Thomas College to conduct the first PhD Viva Voce of Department of Commerce. So I have that honor with me. And I had the privilege of guiding one of the fathers from St. Thomas College, Father Finosh, who took me to Bible Tower, and I had all sort of sufferings that day when I climbed up. I still remember. That is the other one, and of course, second time also I visited Tiruchur very recently to have a faculty development program in a college, a sister's college in Mala in Tiruchur. So with that way, I have been closely connected with Tiruchur, and I am very happy and proud about it. Now, we are going to discuss about this commerce and management education for the next 50 to 60 minutes. What is happening in the field of commerce, how commerce and management already suffer even without COVID, and how it suffers due to COVID, all that we are going to discuss. I want to make certain conditions in the beginning itself. This is primarily for the faculty of Commerce and Management Studies. That the discussion will go towards the professors of Commerce and Management Education. The second one is in India, we call this as Commerce and Management Education. In Western countries and other parts, it's primarily called Business Studies. Since it is business studies, I'll have the liberty of using several business examples to convey the points. Towards the end, I'll be showing how this commerce education is changing through some video presentations. I have got 2 case studies. In one of the case studies, I worked with Pearson Education and Liquid e-platform company, e-learning company in New Delhi. I worked with them and I developed a case study. Then there is another case study. There are different levels. These are called adaptive level of case studies. So those case studies we will be just discussing to see how this commerce and management education is changing. This is what we are going to do. This is how I planned it. Before I get into the topic, I need to say, generally, the professors of commerce and management education walk with a bit of pride. They always feel honored. It is because commerce is always a much sought after course. There is always a demand for commerce. To the extent that commerce is viewed as a semi-professional course. Engineering, medicine, law, these are considered as professional courses. In certain areas, even commerce and management are treated on par with these professional courses, except that we don't have a regulatory body. So that is one thing about commerce. The other one, as I said now, is about the demand for commerce courses. Now almost everywhere application selling process is just beginning. If you see which course is attracting huge number of applications, obviously across India it would be only commerce. What is the reason for it? Why there is so much demand for commerce? Are we in any way responsible for the demand created for commerce courses? I must say, maybe partly we are responsible. Partly because the decision for joining commerce is taken by a student when he is in the school itself. In school at the higher secondary level, different streams are available. Say the science stream is available, and then there is a commerce stream, there is a vocational course. If a student chooses a science stream, he has got several options available. There are different streams available for a science student. Say, for example, he can go for medicine, he can go for engineering, he can go for a science course in an arts and science college, wherein also he has got plenty of opportunities. He can choose botany, chemistry, physics, electronics, statistics, and whatnot. So many options are available. So it gets diluted. The demand for each of these courses, each of these programs get diluted. But as far as commerce is concerned, he chooses it in higher secondary itself, and he has no other option other than coming to us for commerce program. As far as I am concerned, no other program is as equivalent to commerce. That is my perception. It is not that it is it's a high quality. It's not like that. This is the perception. This is called the perceived value of commerce courses. There are two things. One is real value, and another one is the perceived value. I'm talking about the perceived value that commerce is the best program, and we should be the first option, and everybody goes for that. And this is what is keeping us going. This inherent nature of student selection, which happens at the higher secondary level, that is the reason for the continued demand for commerce program. What is the experience of a commerce student after he completes the program is a different matter. What sort of program he is, what sort of jobs he is going, how many of them becoming an entrepreneur? These are the very basic questions. These questions we never go into that. Whether we are making any difference between the commerce student and the science student. In what way commerce students are superior When it comes to placement in bank, insurance, companies in administrative positions, we never looked into that, because we never felt the need to look into that, for the simple reason there is always a demand for commerce program, which is considered as a creamy program of any institution. So this is the reality. In 1991, new economic policy was introduced. The business education, the business has undergone a tremendous change. Everything had changed. But whether all these get reflected in commerce and management education is a very big question, especially in an Indian context. We are very slow in responding to the changes. The companies are adopting so many techniques. About some of these techniques we will be seeing during our discussions. So I won't give a very rosy picture about commerce and management education at the moment. We need to change a lot. The business is changing in a different direction. It is making a giant leap forward. Commerce is just walking rather slowly and believe in incremental changes. What we today need is a drastic, radical changes. But what happens in commerce and management education is only a step-by-step progressive education. With this, we call it as a reactive changes. We need to have a proactive changes. So now, keeping this background in the mind, we are going to see what is happening at this time of COVID and how this COVID is impacting some of the subjects taught in commerce, and what is the strategy we need to adopt, how we have to prepare ourselves for the changes. So we will go for a PPT presentation. Now we will see this webinar on impact of COVID on commerce and management education. I hope it is visible to everybody.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, this is how I have planned my presentation. We are going to first see the context. What is happening right now? What is happening right now? The background. Before we get into the issue, we are going to see what is happening around us and what happened just before the COVID struck us, and then what is the actual issue and how this issue is impacting us, how this issue is impacting the business, and how this issue is impacting the business education, and then what is the strategy out, what is the strategy available for commerce and management teachers. And finally, we will be concluding with some presentation, some video presentation. When we talk about this context, a lot of changes are happening around us. The first one is we are living in Industry 4.0. I hope you will be knowing about this Industry 4.0. The first industrial revolution is caused by steam engines, water-powered machines. This is the reason for the first industry revolution. And second was, we call it as the Industry 2.0, which is caused by electricity. And then third one is Industry 3.0. This we call it as invention of computer systems. Say fully automated machines were introduced and the computer was introduced. They were just introduced, happening around the 60s and 70s. So this was happening once. And this COVID didn't strike during that time. Of course, we had that Spanish flu in 1918. But now this COVID strikes us very hard during Industry 4.0. That is very, very important. This background is very, very relevant. Now we are living in the world of artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, IoT, Internet of Things, IOS, Internet of Systems. Earlier, it was human-machine interface. That we call it as Industry 3.0. But now we are living in a machine-to-machine interface. Now we are living in the world of robots. Why do I mention about it? What happens right now, all these online teaching, conversion into digital teaching, as your principal rightly pointed out, this is the time to explore the possibilities of digital teaching. All these are made possible right now because fortunately or unfortunately, we are now presently living in Industry 4.0 period. So this is one of the reasons why this transition is happening at all. Otherwise, what would have happened is all the businesses, industries, education, everything would have been closed down. No activity would have been happening, like what happened during Spanish flu. But now the world is still moving. In what phase it is moving is a different question. But it is still moving. It is still giving us options. All this possible because we are living in Industry 4.0. Next one, it is very, very important. What is the priority area of UGC and MHRD? You take all the notes of notifications of University Grants Commission, MHRD, and then FICCI, Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. All these reports, if you see, they all focus on one thing: digitization of education, learner-centered learning, and internationalizing the higher education process. All these are the priority areas of these UGC, MHRD, and all our employers. And now only one difference. Earlier it was a voluntary conversion or voluntary transition. Now what happened is the involuntary transition, or I put it differently, as a forced transition. Now we have to go and adopt massive open online courses. We have to go in for credit transfer systems, and then we'll have to go for online teaching, online evaluation, online integration of online curriculum. All these are going to happen, but don't think all that are happening just because of COVID. Don't put all the blame on COVID-19. The government is already preparing the educational sector for this transition. You just read the new education policy, and that clearly mentions. Just to go and read the highlights of the new education policy, they touch upon all that. Reducing the number of institutions. Now we have got 50,000 colleges and 800 universities. And the policy says we need only 15,000 universities and degree awarding colleges. And they can go up to admitting 40,000 students. But if they have only 3,000 students, that institutions will be considered as non-viable and closed down. Now, the question is, how come we accommodate 40,000 students in our brick and mortar campus, in our buildings? No, they don't say you must accommodate them in your classrooms. They say go for online teaching, go for distance teaching, and then regular programs likewise. So a student should be given 3 options in the beginning itself. Now we might say, no, in that their degree certificate it will be mentioned, they have done it through regular program, they have done it through distance program, they have done it through online program. No, hereafter the government is going to make it compulsory that nothing should be mentioned in what mode they have studied it, whether they have done it through online or offline or distance mode, nothing would be mentioned. It is because the question papers and the level of difficulty are going to be the same. This is how the government has planned, and some of the universities, category A universities, have already launched it. In Tamil Nadu, SRM University, Alaharpa University, they have already started this process. But now the COVID has come, it is going to become compulsory for every one of us to try online or blended learning. That we will be discussing later. So the ground is already set. Now we believed, again a perception, we believed that we were living in a flat world. Is possible. A transition, transportation is made easy, business is made easy, and the countries were concentrating on those business which are convenient for them. If you talk about the United States, they were primarily concentrating on service economy, leaving the manufacturing to third world countries, poor countries. And some of them were concentrating only on agriculture. And some countries were concentrating only on manufacturing, like China. So this is how, through trade agreements, through trade deals, they ensured that free movement of goods and services and people. And not even in their dreams, wildest imaginations, they thought that such a path would come, such a kind of development will take place. Alvin Toffler, in Future Shocks, he has written two versions. Even Alvin Toffler has not thought about this problem, about this pandemic. He has not mentioned anywhere that the world will change, world will receive a huge shock because of this problem. Of course, the American presidents, some of the presidents made passing reference, but nobody imagined that this would happen. In the morning, I was just watching the WION TV, and they were interviewing the Iran farmers. The Iran farmers were very happy. You know, it is because they are able to market their producers in the local market. Earlier, Iraq government was importing even the vegetables from Iran and Turkey, leaving their own farmers in dire straits. Now all the borders are closed. International travels are stopped. This local economy is thriving. These local agriculture produce find a good market, and they all are happy. People are happy. Now the Iraq government has said it is going to have a relook at its policies. They are going to have a relook at the import policies. So the world has been living in a flat world. The people are living in a flat world, and they believed that globalization of economy would be the solution to all their problems. They can live in whichever way they want to live. This is, but now you know what is happening between China and the United States. How they are blaming each other, how they are giving priority, how they are changing their manufacturing hubs, manufacturing centers. It is not that everything is going to come to India. Temporarily, it may be shifted here or there. Every country will develop all their three forms of economy. That is the agricultural economy, the manufacturing economy, and the service economy. Then only they will become self-reliant, self-sufficient. Now we understand a new meaning for self-sufficiency. Then the next one, Johari window theory. We would known about this particular theory. This talk about knowledge and meta-knowledge. Meta-knowledge, we refer to knowledge of knowledge. How much knowledge we have. And there are 4 categorizations: known knowns, known unknowns, unknown knowns, unknown unknowns. And each one is different.
Sir,
Yes,
sir.
Now we are discussing about where we right now where we are presently placed. We know that certain facts are known to us, certain facts are known to others. There are certain facts which are not known to anybody, and that is called unknown unknowns, and nobody knows what will be the world in 1 month's time. Nobody knows where the world will stand after a year. So we are in a complete dark. This we call it as a black swan. It's a black swan means we have absolutely no idea about what is going to happen. That is why government says the exam should be conducted in September, but nobody is sure whether exams will be conducted there, what will be the level of spike at that time, what is going to happen when the colleges will begin. Nothing is known. The reason is this is a new experience for us. We are entering into an uncharted territory. The road less walked, but the road never walked. So this is how it happens. Now I am changing the slide. So
Yes, it has been changed, sir.
Right. Okay.
Known unknowns.
Now you
Yes.
can. Okay. Now you can see when it is the known problem. Suppose during southwest monsoon, a cyclone may form. Or in northeast monsoon, the characteristic of monsoon is forming of cyclone. We all know there will be cyclone, but only thing we don't know is when the cyclone will be formed, when there will be a problem. So these are all called problem management or risk management. And there will be flood, there will be cyclone, there will be tremor, there will be earthquake. Only thing we don't know is when this will happen. But these unknown like this COVID-19 pandemic it's a real crisis. Why we say it is a real crisis? In a problem, we know the beginning and the end. When it is going to be a cyclone, we can very well say the cyclone will cross, there will be a landfall, and this will last for 18 hours or 20 hours, and then this will go away and we can resume the normal activities. And we will have to go for relief and rescue operation. But in this crisis, we don't know when this will end. There is no end. As far as I can see, there is no end to it. This process is called crisis management. This process is unknown unknowns and not identified. One such unknown unknowns is today this COVID-19. Now we have come to a specific detail. Are all the companies are taken unaware, unprepared by this COVID-19? If I say whether all the educational institutions are taken by surprise or unprepared, yes, it is true. Almost all educations are taken unaware, taken by surprise. But there are certain companies which are handling this COVID-19 quite well. It is not that I refer to what sort of assistance they are doing. They ensure their business is flourishing, they are performing very well. And one example is the story of Reliance Industries Limited. Even in my book on principles of management, the first opening case study is about Mukesh Ambani one. He is adapting a style of management called a disruptive style of management. What is this disruptive style of management? If I have to give some example about what happened, just before the beginning of this webinar on impact of COVID on commerce and management education, I was just scrolling my mobile phone just to see what is the breaking news. The breaking news is now there is going to be another investment in Reliance Industries, Reliance Jio, and this time it is by Google. Google was conducting talks with Jio. Why do I say this? What is the relevance of what I am saying? That is very important. If you talk about Reliance Industries share, before this pandemic, their share price was 800 to 900. You can just see that. Today, their share price is 1,960. That is as on date. The only share in the world which has doubled since the beginning of this COVID-19 pandemic. Facebook wants to invest. South Arabian country, the company wants to invest, and there are many companies which come and invest. So far, they have collected $16 billion, and they are going to become a debt-free company, completely debt-free company by 31st March 2021. Now itself, technically, they are free of net debt. And by March 21, they are going to completely become debt-free company. They are attracting so much of money. You know what is the reason? It's very simple. It is not far to look. He believes in living in crisis are living through disturbed style of management. It was actually 3 or 4 years back. It was considered, Reliance Industries was considered as an energy company. And this is how Mukesh Ambani has inherited from Dhirubhai Ambani, his father. He has inherited a oil company. We call it as the energy company. But the problem in energy companies, there is a huge fluctuations in the oil prices. Suppose if Brent oil prices changes, it will immediately get reflected on the Reliance Industry share prices. How it happens is that for measuring this systematic risk, we use beta. If supposing if the Brent oil prices change by 1%, then Reliance Industry price will change by 0.7%. They were closely related. If it changes by 1% means the Reliance share price will change by 0.7. When the prices decrease means Reliance prices will also be proportionally decreasing and wiping out all his profits. You may be knowing when the prices of oil fall below benchmark, most of the Reliance retail petrol outlets were closed down. They were opened only after it gone beyond the benchmark minimum prices. Then he decided that this is a too risky, too fluctuating industry. We will have to move to another one. Now they have become a technology company. Now they have become a telecom giant, and he made it. He understood everything is going to be based on telecom, whether it is education or e-commerce or whatever you name it. Everything is going to be based on it. So he started questioning his own operating assumptions. He started questioning the functioning of every person of his own company. And he believed that core competencies must be built. Execution capability must be built. Above all, there must be adaptability. In 5th September 2016, he launched Jio. When he launched Jio, this was the position. You can see this, where Reliance Jio is. You'll have to search to find out where he is, because it was launched only in 5th September 2016. But he adopted disturbed style. He was offering everything at free of cost. You may be knowing, up to a year, he was offering it at free of cost. He lost a huge sum of money on that. Billions, 1 billion he lost because he was offering it free of cost. Within 1 year, in 2017, he could take a sizable position. As you can see here, where this Reliance Jio is taking, it has taken a sizable position in the market. And then in 1 year time, you can see where this Reliance Jio, it has taken 17.44%. Normally, it will take 7 years, 8 years for a company to reach this target. Every 1 year, he was making a huge progress. Now you can see that Idea and Vodafone, together they were having a huge market. You know what happened? They realized the threat from Reliance Jio, so they have come together, they merged themselves. In the very next year, what happened is that they have gone for a merger and the Vodafone Idea was born. But still nobody could stop his business expansion, and Jio was taking a 27%. And in 2019 October, he has become a top player. He has become a top player. Now in 2020, everybody is approaching Reliance Jio for a share. Everyone is, Facebook is investing, now Google has invested, and KKR associates in USA, they invested, everybody investing. What is the strategy he has adopted? We call it as disturbed style. Have we ever discussed those things with our students? Now if you read the newspaper, you can understand in the history of India, in the history of corporate India, a company that made the largest loss That is 78,000 plus crores loss is Vodafone Idea company. They are on the verge of closure. Bharti Airtel is on the verge of closure. There is only one company which made a profit in the last 2 years is Reliance Jio. This business tactics, have you ever discussed with them? This is the context. Now, since they practiced with the distributed style of management, they are handling this crisis very well. And they are seeing only an opportunity. We see that we must see a challenge and an opportunity, but they look at it only as an opportunity. Having seen the context, having seen the background, having seen how the government is pushing for major changes, how companies are adapting themselves to this crisis situation, what is happening around us, what sort of problem we are facing, how it is an unknown unknowns with no end in sight. We are going to see how this COVID is affecting our profession, our teaching professions. This is very interesting. The worst affected sector across the globe is teaching sector. They call it as academia. You can see a lot of teaching and assessment disturbances. Each one is taking a decision and then they come back. They want to start the college, then they stop it. The worst is for LKG to 5th standard, they conduct online teaching. Government says, court says, no, because we don't know what is the impact, what will be the future followed. 157 crore students are affected across the world. Of which in India alone, 28.5 crore students are affected. The worst scenario, the most dangerous scenario is the world is moving towards global recession. And they say this recession, the United Nations Secretary General, he has made a statement today, it will be worst since 1870. The world is going to see the worst fall in per capita income since 1870. They don't even talk about 1930 global recession. They don't make a reference to First World War or Second World War. They say it is going to be the worst. And today, I think probably tomorrow's newspapers might carry this information. And Center for Monitoring Indian Economy says that it is the worst affected. And the unemployment rate already reached 23% from 8.4%. And in the urban area, it is worst, 30.9. How are we going to train our students to face this situation? So this is a multi-pronged attack on us. There is going to be a global recession, and there is going to be a lot of downsizing, right sizing by companies. There is going to be a huge career growth disturbances. Now, I think we need to understand very quickly, we are seeing a systematic risk. It is always easy to handle unsystematic risk, which affects certain industries. Through proper diversification, we will be managing all unsystematic risk. If air industry is affected, we will move towards marine industry. If marine industry is affected, we will move towards air industry. But here, all industries are affected. All sectors are affected. And that is the most dangerous thing about this. Now, this raises a few questions. Has the education a new normal? Everybody talks about new normal. If it is new normal, which we are going to see, what is that new normal? Are we going completely towards online teaching, or we are going for blended online teaching? If we go for online teaching, how much percentage of classroom teaching should be converted into online teaching? If we go for 100% online teaching, will our employers accept it? There will be no internship, there will be no project work, there will be no field work. Will our employer accept that? These are some of the very important questions. And then very important one is, will we be able to reach out to the poorest through our technology? Even in Kerala, unfortunate incident was reported. A girl child studying in a school committed suicide because she could not get to that online teaching. Due to this network problem, non-availability of net and all, she committed suicide. It was reported here. No, problems are to be addressed. We all know that this is common problem affecting us also. So every discipline, whether it is commerce or science, whatever stream it is, then what is the state of mind of our students? What is the emotional state of our students when they go for online teaching? These are the important questions which need to be addressed. Now we will come to our area. As I said earlier, we are going to see how this is affecting the business and by extension the business education. I mean the commerce and management education. If you look at it, I am not able to put it on full screen, perhaps due to some issues. You can see that orange line, you can see which is the most affected one. If you see underneath, you can see the different sectors like public, private sector, public sector, NGO, corporate sector, and the last one is academia, which is indicated by yellow color. And we are just clueless and we are just helpless. We just every day we see what the government is going to do for us. But industries, they are slowly getting back to normalcy. Everybody is getting back to normalcy, and they are begin to float. If not thrive, they just begin to float and they are managing. But education sector is not able to manage because of its inherent nature, and no one knows what is the policy preferences of the government. Yeah, every government, central government, state government, everyone is in an utter confusion because what is the next turn this COVID will take? What will happen when there is a mutation of the virus? And all these are big questions. But one thing I can say, ACCA in a global survey says the worst affected sector is academic sector among all the business sectors. You can see what are the major problems that are faced. The first one is the productivity is affected, the cash flow is affected, and the launching of new products are affected. These are some of the very important problems which are faced, and the investment decisions are deferred. So these are very crucial for survival of the industries. All these have got affected. They don't mind that much about reputational damage and other things because they are confident that they will be able to manage it later. This is the problem with regard to small and medium enterprises. And when it comes to ACCA, they have made certain key findings in their global survey. The first one is all sectors, irrespective of the size, sector, region, everything has got affected, especially those who depend on value chain and the supply chain. They are worst affected. The major problems for all the employers is around employees, cash flow, and the change in the consumer demand. I want you to know all this because this will have an impact on our subjects. It will have an impact on our courses. And the government intervention is generally viewed as effective across the nations. Many nations consider the response of the government seem to be effective. And then the last point I want to insist on is very, very important. We have got 3 ways in which we can respond to this COVID challenge. The first one is short-term response, another one is medium-term response, and the long-term is the last one is a long-term response. In medium-term, short-term response, our only problem is conducting somehow test for these final year students and then wait for the COVID to subside and then begin our normal life, like similar classroom teaching. But most of the organizations, they prefer only medium to long-term approach. They want to use it as a cause. They want to use it as an opportunity for a full-scale change to some other form of business, to some other form of delivery. They want to leave their past behind. This is how most of the employees are looking at this COVID. They don't want to go back to the pre-COVID period. I hope you will understand what I mean to say. Most of the business people, most of the business enterprises, they don't want to go back to the previous one. They want to adopt technology once for all. So are we prepared? Commerce and management professors, are we prepared for that? This is the McKinsey report, very recently released. This is very important one. And they say how long this COVID impact would last, when it would start subsiding, and when it would end. If you see this very closely, you can understand when with regard to educational services, the impact would be felt up to 2025. There are certain sectors which will have a impact within a short period, like the last one, healthcare. They will have 20 to 21, everything will be sorted out because they are already working on their optimum capacity. But there are certain businesses which will have their end of problem only by 2025. So for next 5 years, we have to live with this problem. But everybody says that the vaccine would come in 1 month time, 2 months time, every time. Now USA has made a statement today. They are getting ready with the vaccine, which is going for the final clinical trial, final human trial with the 30,000 persons. And they say this trial should last for 2 years minimum. In 1 year, they will widen the testing zone. They will involve more people, but to be very effective, to be fail-proof, to be safe for humans, it will take 2 years. And then once it is ready in 2 years, to cover the entire population, it will take another 2 years. So naturally, as teachers, as educational institutions, we must be ready to plan for next 5 years. If we have to plan for next 5 years, you can never go back to pre-COVID era. You can never think of the past. Past can never be the guiding force for the future. So we are making a fresh beginning. In that, we'll have to be very clear that we will live in the past. That is not possible. It is going to be, definitely it is going to be a changed future for every one of us. This is the McKinsey report done with the Oxford economics. They have done it and released a few days back. So this is all about how the business has get affected because of this COVID. Now, we will come to our subjects. As I said earlier, the purpose is to see what are the areas which are affected by this COVID-19 in commerce and management education. I have just divided into two categories. One is how this curriculum is getting changed, how it gets impacted. It is us, we have to decide how this should be incorporated in our syllabus. I'm with you. What are the changes that are happening in human resource management, in finance, in marketing? What sort of changes are happening? That I'm going to tell you. How this has to be included and incorporated in our syllabus, that we have to decide at our own levels. Then teaching, learning, evaluation also, how we have to, what sort of impact is happening, how we will have to manage it. Now, first one, we will talk about human resource management. The best find of COVID is many jobs can be done from home. We call it as remote working or work from home. Many jobs which we never imagined could be done through work from home are now possible. We never thought marketing job can be done through work from home, but it is happening. How effectively it is happening, it's a different question. But one thing has become clear: it is possible. Even HR, human resource management job, can be done through work from home. This remote working is presents new opportunities and challenges, and this must find further research, further exploration, and inclusion in our syllabus. This is very, very important. And you know that many companies are making profit because of remote working. Their electricity bill is saved, their food bill is saved, their transport bill is saved, and some of the companies are raising the salaries. The variable component in salary, which is rising because they are making profits. Of course, there are some issues with regard to demand creations, because they are service sector and they depend on others for getting their business. The problem is only with the demand creation, and the supply side, work side, they are just enjoying, especially the IT companies, software companies. Now the role of HR manager is to revisit the HR policies and procedures. So most of the HR policies, procedures, or systems are tuned towards working in the physical working in the factories, working in the offices. Now it is going to change. Some of the companies have allowed their employee to work from home till the end of the year. And some of the companies say they will be allowed to work for the next 1 year. From this June to next June, or from March to next March, they can work from home. You know, it is a trial for them. Don't think that it is a temporary measure they are adopting. They are testing it like they are testing COVID vaccine. They are testing this also. If it works well, if it becomes final, if it is profitable, they will definitely adopt it. Unlike us, they will be very quick to adopt certain system because they work on bottom margins and top margins. For them, what counts is turnover and profit. So naturally, we must give importance for this. The other important one is psychological well-being and safety issues. There are certain factories, manufacturing, mines, etc., where remote working is not possible. There, the people are living in an eternal fear. As HRs, we must give further importance, a deeper study onto the psychological well-being and safety issues in HR. This will also be gaining currency, will be gaining importance. The other one is we must train. We must retrain our employees to adapt with the radical changes which are happening. Now we talk about PPE, mask, social distancing, everything. All this must find a place in the HR manuals in HR. So this is the very major change that is happening. Then there are some other issues. We talked about work-life balance. But now what happens? Both are the same. Family-work conflict. Now I give this webinar from my home. So naturally, there will be issues within the family. And it is 1 hour business for me, no issue. But if I have to work for 10 hours and 11 hours, there will be conflict. Workers should be trained, provided counseling, how to handle about it. I said we are entering a global recession. So now companies are very quietly, except IT companies or even IT companies, are quietly implementing downsizing and right sizing. They are sending out employees, though the government repeatedly says that nobody should be retrenched. That is not that much easy because the employees work on profit. Employees work on profit, employees work on salary. Both are diametrically opposite, mutually exclusive. When the profit, if the profit has to go up, salary must come down. If the salary has to go up, profit must come down. So this is how it operates. But still, the employer must have a humane approach. The HR manager should have a humane approach so that they get a goodwill, they get a good image in the labor market. And now the lot of HR issues, industrial relation issues, union issues are going on in organizations. But these are not silently happening. There is a lot of government interventions. Now, once again, we must give importance for industrial relation issues in human resource management. You will have to ensure these issues find a place. These issues find a place here. That is important. Then certain things like communication system, supervision, all these must be reworked. Employee engagement should be reworked. That is important. And then next topic, next discipline is finance. Finance is presenting a very interesting challenges. Finance, especially financial accounting. We do teach financial accounting. That has got several implications. The first implication is we have accounting principles. The foremost, the cornerstone principle is going concern principle. We always make an assumption. We always make an assumption that the business go on forever. Even for a contract-based business also, we make an assumption the business go on forever because that principle is very important for depreciation. Calculating the depreciation, we have to consider the life of the machine only, not the life of the business. But what happens is now the auditors are expressing apprehensions. The financial managers express apprehensions. We don't know whether our business will go beyond 1 year. Many businesses are going to get closed, but the government has come out with the order that insolvency procedure should not be initiated for the next 1 year. Insolvency procedure should not be initiated for next 1 year. That is what the government says, and that is why some of the companies are just floating. Otherwise, they would already filed their bankruptcy petitions. Now, how this going concern principle will be applicable? If they are waiting for filing their petitions, there will be real issues in going concern. So we need to revisit this particular principle. Then the next one major area is the revenue recognition. As we all know, there are two bases. One is mercantile basis and cash basis. In mercantile basis, once sales is made, we consider as the transaction completed and we enter it. We just enter it on an accrual basis. We enter it on an accrual basis. So this is how we are operating. But now what happens is, once the sales is done, what we do is we show it here. But because of COVID disturbances, transport has come to a standstill. Lot of sales returns are happening. Lot of discounts are offered, which brings down the price. Just a minute. Now, because of that, so you sell it for one value. Now, say there is a sales return, unprecedented increase in the discounts. Whatever we sold, the price comes down, and how will you record it? If you adopt a mercantile basis, then there will be huge problem in auditing. We never anticipated such problems. We thought when we make a sale, even after 1 year, I'll get the money back. Whatever sale I record it here in book, that money I'll get. If it doesn't come, it will form a bad debt. That will be a very small percentage. But now we don't know whether it reached the party, whether there will be any sales return, how big sales return. This year, most organizations are going to face this problem. That is the next one. Fair value measurement is, we know that all our assets and liabilities should be recorded at the current market value. And here also there is the problem. There is a crash in the prices. There is a huge crash in the prices of financial assets like shares, debentures, bonds, etc. And also in the value of the equipments, machine, etc. Now, how will you mention it here? If you mention it in the present value, there will be huge loss. When there is a huge loss, you will have only one option: closing down the business. If you have to close down the business, there is no provision available right now. The government wants us not to go for filing of insolvency petition. Then the cash management crisis is another major crisis which we are presently facing. This force majeure, in every agreement you will find this force majeure, which is a clause, which says that in exceptional situations, any contract can be cancelled. Now, if everybody uses this specific class, because this is applicable to everybody, because there is a huge supply chain disturbances, there is a huge damage to stocks, which are not properly protected, properly maintained. If everybody uses, then what will happen? There is, as I said earlier, there is a state directive on insolvency and liquidation, and that should also be revisited. Now there is a new class. Government can even postpone the process of insolvency. Once the debt exceeds the equity, we go for it. Assets exceed the liability, we go for it. But now there is no provision, which will hugely affect the finance sector. Auditing is a problem. No visit is possible. You cannot go and do a physical verification, and that creates a lot of problem. Now we'll have to go only for online auditing, and auditing should discuss in detail about online auditing, how to do online auditing without compromising quality. For next several years, we will have to manage with the online auditing, and many companies have failed even in their statutory duties, like paying the dues in Provident Fund, the Employee Provident Fund, Goods and Services Tax, which means ultimately the auditor has to give only an adverse report. But auditor doesn't give adverse report. No, they consider in a holistic manner and they give a report. Once an adverse report is given, your annual report gets affected. Once your annual report shows adverse report, then your goodwill gets affected, your share price crashes, and everything happens. And this is going to be a biggest challenge for online, biggest challenge for auditors and also for the companies, how they are going to handle it. Now, the last one is regarding the marketing. Marketing, the most affected is marketing people, because their job is on the street only, salespeople. Now they have to sit at home and do it. or they have to take extra precautions. But even then, the customers may not be ready to meet them. They will come below in the order of priority for the customers. Now, how they have to survive in this session? There is a huge change in the consumer behavior because of work from home and lockdowns. Consumer behavior has undergone a tremendous change. They stopped visiting shops. Everything is done on online mode. Now, how will you change the advertising strategy? That you have to include, that you have to discuss. Now you have to go for a new and innovative marketing campaigns. You will have to go for new mode of advertising. This you might be seeing in all the advertisements. Companies are showing their concern and compassion for us. They are asking us to be very careful, and they say that COVID warriors will be taken care of. This is the time to build their brand, create a goodwill. So now this compassion in advertising is gaining importance, and this future you will have to discuss it. Yes, study says, All India study says, the global level study says, those companies which have adopted software for their marketing management system, like marketing work management, marketing resource management, content marketing, these companies have been successful in facing the COVID, and these companies have been ensuring continuity in their marketing operations. Those were not going for these software platforms, they are suffering the most, and their losses are huge. And these companies which invested in this type of software platforms, they are able to survive and they are able to flat. These should also find a mention in all our future marketing discussions, especially about MWM, MRM, and CMP. This is all about the important changes that we must make, and which should form a basis for our discussion. Now, how this teaching and learning process, including evaluation, is going to be affected. This is the one area which is a concern for most of us in commerce field. I was attending a board of studies as an subject expert. There was also an industrialist who was also there on the board of studies. He is a top level industrialist, and after the board of studies, he made an observation. He said, most of the courses, the content of the courses you are teaching have no direct relevance for the present day business. This is what he said. And I can see that in accountancy courses, whether you take financial accounting. In financial accounting, they do it mostly through Tally. They do it through Tally and other platforms. Even in teaching, they use IT-enabled tools like Excel for teaching accountancy. That if we teach accountancy in any method other than using Excel or other softwares, we are just wasting the time of the students. We start with the journals, ledgers, and I taught the same in 1990s. I am teaching the same now also. Only when the company changes its provisions, government changes the Companies Act 1956, or Cooperative Act, or Partnership Act, and we just make a change. But the way we teach remains the same, and that has to change. Whether COVID or no COVID, we are following outdated mode of teaching, which has no relevance to the business. So this is an opportunity for us to move to digital teaching of accountancy papers, whether it is financial accounting, management accounting, cost accounting. The companies use only system for doing this work. If you use pen and pencil, there is no point. There is no point in teaching that, so we'll have to change it. Then we will have to go for experiential learnings. How case study is changing, how the case study becomes a very important component of teaching, how these publishers, they stopped going for other subsequent editions. Now they are concentrating only on case studies. They understood the future of teaching is going to be case study. And the future of teacher is they will become a facilitator. They will no longer be the center of attraction of classes. They will just initiate discussion. They will guide the students towards the goal of teaching. That is what is going to happen, and the companies are preparing for it. As a matter of fact, I am also doing a little bit work on that. And I wish the commerce and management changes towards that. For 3 years, I have been visiting the websites of various companies to gather information. I got wealth of information. Whatever change is happening, whatever change that happens, whatever innovation they try, they mention it in their pages of websites. Have you ever asked our students to visit the websites? At the most, for some project work, we will say, go and gather annual reports. What is the use of gathering annual reports? All analyses are already done there. What are they going to do? That is called reinventing the cycle. Already what is available, they redo that. But you ask your students to visit the website, at least 100 to 150 websites should be visited. There should be diversity in the companies which we are visiting, and then see how much of knowledge they are gathering. This we can do through digital means only. Just ask them to visit Reliance Industries, say Tata, Vedanta, any company. Just ask them to do that. Now, internship is not possible for next few years. Parents will not cooperate. Project work is not possible. Try the virtual internship. Now, CII, Confederation of Indian Industry, they are conducting an exhibition just on virtual mode. They are going to have an All India Education Expo, and you can have your own stalls, and everything will be every people will be visiting. Everything is animation based. If it is possible for them, it should be possible for us also. We must think in that line also, which is very. And then NAC is asking always about incubation centers and startup facilities, and the e-commerce teachers always keep quiet. Because only for NAC, if we do that, means we will have no solid work done. But hereafter, you have innovation centers, small business centers within your campus. Let your students visit those places. Instead of going out and risking themselves, you can spend some money and have innovation center startup, include it in your curriculum, make it as part of your curriculum and part of your teaching learning process. And now there is no option. Everybody should go for learning management system. The companies, even Geo is going to come in a large way, Geo Meet. So a lot of LMSs are going to be available. In teaching and learning hereafter, the psychological counseling and support for all commerce and management students should become part. It is not that only these students should be provided, but only these people are interested with this. So it is important that they do that. How to handle this problem? How we have to make commerce a really viable competitive courses? It's very simple. The way is available. We'll have to walk in that way. Data science is gaining importance. As I said in the beginning, a lot of changes are happening in artificial intelligence, data mining, analytics. All this should be integrated with the commerce program. Business analytics, HR analytics, market analytics, financial analytics, all these are going to take over the mainstream one. HR analytics will replace HRM. Marketing analytics will replace marketing. I'm not saying that you just replace it. At least there must be one unit which should discuss about these analytics, and it should be slowly integrated. Then the other one is the future is going to be e-commerce. And that is why Reliance has gone for e-commerce investments. Every company worth its name go for e-commerce. This is, we call it as a headless commerce. There is no intermediaries in the business. We just directly go to them and do the business with them. And these companies are going to increase their presence, and they are going to go for huge recruitments. We must prepare our students for that. So e-commerce should become a very important component of commerce and management education. See, you might think one thing, we are already doing it. See, namesake business, surface level changes are not acceptable. These progressive changes are not acceptable. What is required is a radical changes. You will have to sit, discuss, and decide what percentage of changes must be done. Of course, the NAC is also asking what percentage of changes you are. Since we are not doing it, it is compelling us. But we must do it. It is going to be very, very competitive for every college. You cannot say we are in Tiruchur, so we have a very good catchment here. We get good number of students. No. There is going to be virtual universities. There is going to be credit transfers. student from St. Joseph's College, from St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, they will come to your college to study certain subjects. If they find you are good in certain subjects, through online mode, they will come and register with your institution. They will do the program. They will get the certificate. You will charge him for that. You will charge her for that, and they will present it to their controller's office. It will be included. It is this credit transfer is going to come in a very large way. There is going to be a large scale integration of institutions, and this will happen whether we like it or not. So naturally, even before that happens, we have to introduce AI, VR, AR, and other tools in quality of teaching. Swayam, you might be thinking that it is only optional. We will just encourage our students to take it up, let them do. No, Swayam is the beginning. Virtual university is the end. Students not come to us even for getting the degree. They will straight away, their mobile will be the tool. Their mobile will be the learning platform. Everything they will do through that. Of course, there are problems. Internet, everything is a problem. But they say by 2025, 84% of the households will have net connection. That's what the government says. So we must be prepared for that. The other one is, normally we wait for 1 or 2 years, 5 years for some changes to be incorporated in syllabus after it happened in business industry or the real world. Now it is not possible. If you see IIMs, they have started already incorporating these provisions, COVID related changes in their curriculum. Why not we do that? We need to do that, which is necessary. And then we'll have to go for, as I said earlier, presently every commerce student should be provided with the upskills, multidisciplinary approach, because finding a job is going to be difficult, not only for them. 60 lakh students, they do this commerce related program at any time in the country. You can see how difficult it will be for them. Then the next one is very, very important. Earlier, I am the coordinator for international transfer program in my institution. It is very, very difficult to get the students for this program. If I have to send a student to United States, the student must be prepared to spend 35 lakhs to 40 lakhs to go over there. Now, virtual transfers are happening. As you may be knowing, all American universities are going for online education. And Trump says if a student registers for online education, online courses, then he or she has to leave the country. Now today, they are withdrawing that order. Now even from here, our students can do their programs. A semester transfer program, you can try it out. And this can be done with a very, very minimal cost. They will charge only for their name and fame. Only that cost need to be covered, and otherwise it will be possible. You must be knowing that EY, Ernst & Young, has come out with its own MBA program. There is a huge demand for that. They have got 3.5 lakh employees, and instead of sending their people to other educational institutions, premier institutions, they have started their own MBA program. And now, you know what happened is outsiders also want to join. This is how the industry is entering into this our domain. And you would have heard about the Geo University, which has bought nearly 700 acres of land in near Pune. These are all news. These are all says that what is in store for us in the future. Better we work in closer coordination with the industry, and we fulfill their requirements. We all know that when a student completes our degree program and he goes to the company, there he undergoes a training for 3 to 6 months. Now the companies are asking, why should we spend money on training them when they already spend and get trained for 3 years in an educational institution? What these educational institutions are doing, this is the biggest question. You may be knowing Bharati Airtel is also opening its own university. Of course, some of them already opened. And HCL has got its own university, Shivnadar University, and many. So we must be prepared for that competition also. Better that we coordinate and work in closer coordination with them and succeed. These are the 4 modes in which we must be prepared. One is towards blended mode. You have to blend online and offline classrooms. I don't say online is the solution for everything, because there are certain practical difficulties involved. So we will have to think of going for a blended mode. That percentage you have to discuss based on your resources, your reachability, and your management policy, you'll have to do whether you should go for what percentage of online you must go for, but you must go. You have to understand one thing. Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce says that the learning should be customized. What a student needs must be provided. What the teacher knows should not be provided. It has to be customized, leisurely, phased form of learning. That you will have to provide. Of course, digital learning will enable him. You will have to provide him as many electives as possible. That is the need of the hour, and you'll have to make use of the present opportunity. When the next generation of students come, you'll have to ensure that they get as many opportunities so that the horizon of knowledge gets widened. Experiential learning, the government has made it compulsory for all students to undergo internship for 3 months. All undergraduate students should go for 3-month internship. You must incorporate it, whether government says or not. Project work internship should be made compulsory, and they learn out of doing. That will reduce their problems when they go for actual job. That will reduce the necessity of putting them in training. But the last, but not the least, perhaps the foremost problem is introducing an inclusive mode of changes. Poorest sections cannot be left out. This is the country wherein large sections are living in poorer conditions. Today, United Nations Secretary General says 260 million people are going towards extreme poverty. By the end of this year, 260 people will lose their food security. In such a situation, this digital thinking, digital way of thinking is unthinkable, but it is necessary. You have to take all of them together, and you'll have to ensure everybody gets benefited out of them. We never say that digital will be exclusive. The Matthew effect says those who benefit out of a change will continue to benefit out of it. Those who benefit out of digitization alone will continue to benefit out of that. But that has to be changed. We will have to go in for a change that covers every section of the society. We will have to ensure, through our innovation, we will have to ensure every section is covered. This is how it has to be done. This is how the commerce and management education has to change. This is very important. Let me show, if time permits, some of the changes that are happening and what are the changes are introduced by companies and publishers. I'll just, if possible, I'll just go towards that. I don't know whether.
Okay. No problem, sir. No problem. Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm just trying.
Sir, if it's not coming, you can stop sharing and share again, sir.
Okay. I'll just try it.
Then it will work.
So this,
yes,
I hope
yes,
you
it's
are
coming,
seeing
sir.
It. Right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This is called Pearson case box. Several professors are working on that. And I worked on this particular case study. This is actually a one-page case study in my book on human resource management. That is in the first chapter. I don't know whether this will work. Anyway, I'll try it. This is about a very meritorious student getting a placement in a good company. He joins as a management trainee. What happens is he is performing extremely well in that management training period. So he is given a jump in his position and he is directly appointed as a manager. But because he was given an undue importance and undue promotion, this is how others look at it. There is a problem. How this problem evolves and how it is handled. Now everything is done by the students only. The teacher's role is only a facilitator. I hope this is another case study.
Okay,
this is about, I'm going ahead. This is about Netflix company. You know, And Netflix, they adopted very unconventional method of recruitment and training. They have not followed any policy, and that is their policy. Now the students will be discussing about this particular style. As you can see, and now you can see the, okay, right. So this is how you can just see a look at it. And each one, your organization has the best possible talent from, this is a real life case study. Once you complete the recruitment and training, you will have to go for this case study, and everything you will be just discussing with your students. And now they are asking for questions. However, there are daily conflicts and you are unable to get output. What would you do? The options are given here, and you'll have to fire the ones who are the most troubling, put everyone on a cultural training. Conflicts are the lifeblood of creativity, and then implement strict appraisal policies, etc. Supposing I choose this first one.
That's the right answer.
So that it gives what is that right answer, and that gives an explanation. Suppose I go, once that is over, I'll have to go for the next one, and this
That's
is
the right answer.
This is how we'll have to be. It has to be selected, and that is you can see the full case study. This case study is converted into adaptive learning.
If you were Sonali, what would you recommend to the R&D head?
Do you hear this voice?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's audible.
It's audible now.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
I'll go for it. See, now they are asking for certain question. I already given the study whether that person who is Vinay, whether he can be selected or not, that I'll have to give. Once I give them, then
Right.
situation
Based on your recommendation, Vinay has been promoted as design manager. He is very excited and happy about this out-of-turn promotion. However, he finds that the new role is no cakewalk. He has to learn many new things which are challenging. Sadly, his peers and even mentors are ignoring him and are not as friendly as they used to be. But Vinay is determined to surmount these challenges and remains optimistic. Over a period of 2 months, there is a drastic reduction in the morale of the design team. Team members showed disinclination and the absenteeism rate accelerates. There are strong rumors that one of the experienced assistant managers is actively looking for a new job. Ravi meets the HR head, Sonali. He recommends that an exception be made, and Vinay be given the role. If you were Sonali, what would you recommend to the R&D head?
So I'll have to make a choice now, whether I have to continue with the same person, the management trainee who has been given extraordinary promotion, or I'll have to change my decision. So 3 options are given, and I'll have to go for this particular selection. This will branch out to another. See, every time this will branch out to 3 options. Now I am saying control the damage by removing Vinay as design manager. This is how I am selecting, and I am giving it.
Vinay hears about his imminent removal from the post of design manager. He is shocked and very worried about how his peers will now view him. He considers resigning within months of being promoted. Vinay requests for a meeting with Ravi and Sonali to submit his resignation. If you were Ravi or Sonali, what will be your next course of action?
So our role is either Ravi or Sonali, and we will have to take a decision. Then 3 options are given, asking Vinay not to resign, or accept his resignation, or delay his resignation. So now we are asking him not to resign.
Great. It is good you have managed to convince Vinay to stay, as he was an excellent management trainee and has great potential. However, Vinay's peers cheer and humiliate him, making the workplace very toxic. This is inevitable, and only time will tell how the situation would resolve. What are your key learnings from the current case?
Yeah, what did you learn out of this selection of options? Each selection of actions will lead you to different key learnings. Now we say we must adhere to the company policies, which is giving 1 promotion at a time, not this kind of double promotion, which resulted in this problem. So I'm just choosing that option, and I give it. Yes, it does help to adhere to policies and not change them unless there is any dire need. So this is how one particular option ends. And there are several branches. As you can see, you have reached the first end of the first branch. Similarly, you can go ahead with the other branches also. So this dashboard, I can say I learned my decision-making skill is improved by 33%. And as far as this case skill performance is concerned, there is no problem solving or communication skill is involved. And there are different learning modules. You can also see my performance. This is my skill performance score. As you can see that my skill performance score, the decision making indicated in yellow. So only my decision making skill has improved. So artificial intelligence will be evaluating the person's responses, and based on that it will award scores. And this is available for different subjects: HR, finance, and marketing. Right now they are doing it, and they are just working on that. And they have allotted 2 crores as budget for developing these case studies. One company alone has invested 2 crores for completing the whole process of case study. This is one form, and as I said, this is another form of case study. And this one page has been converted into case study like that. Earlier, it was a teacher who should explain this case study and involve the students in discussion. Now, in a classroom situation, everybody will be looking at their own laptop, and they will make a selection and they will have a discussion. It is expected that the case study which I had written will cover 2-hour session. This is how they base it. My case study, which I wrote for 36 pages, will cover 2-hour studies, and the teacher will have the role of facilitator. And here itself, you will find a place for experts. So when any doubts you have, you can ask the experts here also, and that is our role. And this is how the future is going to be. And very soon all these will be released. But one thing I can say, we ourselves can do it. This is not a very Herculean task. If you get the help of somebody well versed with IT, e-learning, and we ourselves can do all this, even our whole class can be converted. The classroom teaching can be converted into e-learning platform. This is what we are going to do. If you delay it, somebody else will do it and get our students. So it is time that as commerce and management students, we do that. Thank you very much.
So one of the question is that, sir, what are your suggestions to solve the problem of digital divide from the point of view of India, our country, sir? So how we can solve that digital division in India?
Yeah.
Hope it's clear. That's one of the questions.
See, one thing is, it is promised by the government that by 2025, 85% of the households will be covered with the internet. That is one solution.
Yes,
I'm not speaking for the government, of course. The other one is they are using TV channels to reach out to the children, students. We can also think of identifying ways to reach out to the students. What I am saying repeatedly is, that is why when I ended it, I ended by saying it has to be an inclusive one. Digital divide is a problem, but for that problem, we will have to find a solution. The only solution is to going for last mile coverage. Every village, everything should be covered through net facilities. I can say that the companies, the telecom companies are competing, service providers are competing with one another to cover the whole country, but they are doing it for business purpose. But the same can be used by us also. We must have the technology, we must have the material to reach the students even through mobile phones. When we asked our students to submit the assignments through online mode, initially we had a lot of difficulties. We also have option for the poor as our important policy. But you know one thing, after difficulty, we ensured that everybody submitted it. Some of them could not upload it. What they have done is that they have sent it through their mails. just a few percentage, 5 to 6% sent it through their mail. So the point I am conveying is, if there is no other way, we will have to take it up. Now we are in that situation. We cannot indefinitely delay the whole process. We will have to go for it, and we will have to ensure that everybody covers and get into the process. And if there are any specific issues to specific group, and that has to be attended to. But citing that the process of converting into online mode, at least the partial process of converting into online mode, cannot be stopped. If we stop it, somebody else will take it up and they will go forward. If we do that, we will ensure, because of our policies, our concern and care, we will take a large section of the society along with us. So this digital divide is a problem, but this can be bridged. And in future, you will find, even now everybody is holding a mobile phone, and we can have a kind of cafe system wherein students in a particular place can come and assemble in a nearest point where these facilities are available and listen to them. And this is also one way which can also be explored. It's not necessary that they have to come here for a class of physical presence. We can ensure that it is made available to the point closest to them. A group of students can get mobilized there and they can listen. It is possible. Where there is a will, there is a way out. Yeah.
Sir, one other question. It will be from some of our teachers. So when the number of the institutions are reduced, what will be their future? That is some of the teachers are concerned about, sir.
Okay, the first one, I wish that you first to see that education policy, and
Yes,
this is one of the provisions, and Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce also, they talk about it. They say there should be a planned expansion of a differentiated university system. This is what they say. So there will be 3 categories: category A, category 1, category 2, category 3. Category 1 is research universities. Category 2 is teaching or career universities. Category 3 is social value institutions. In that, these degree awarding institutions will come under in 2 years time, 2024. After that, there will be no affiliated colleges. The government has made it very clear. There will be only degree awarding colleges. So you have to approach the labor market. You have to approach the employer only in your name, not in the name of your university, parent university. So that system is going to go. Now the question is how to survive. The survival is in our hands only. How many new technologies we learned? What sort of innovation we tried out? What are the online courses we already offered? All are the questions that will determine our survival. Now we have time on our side. We will have to digitally equip ourselves. We have to get well versed with the digital knowledge, and we'll have to do courses on data science. When I say all our commerce students must study, it is prerogative that all the teachers first study about all these. And how many of us are able to use Excel for teaching financial accounting, management accounting, and cost accounting? These are the basic questions. So we have been rather slow in changing ourselves. If we change ourselves on time, if we change ourselves on ahead, we need not bother about our future. You will have wherever you are, you will have a bright future. Only technology will ensure that.
Thank you, sir. So can we move towards a vote of thanks, sir?
Yes.
Now I would like to invite Mr. Jofi TJ, Head of Commerce Department, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. I am honored and lucky to have these wonderful opportunities. I would like sincere thanks to our supportive and inspiring principal, Dr. K. Joy sir, and we heard the words from today the resource person, Dr. Alexander Praveen Dure. Sir, thank you so much for your valuable words and time. I'm sure definitely very informative in the pandemic period. And sincere thanks to our head of the Department of Management Studies, Mrs. Alice N.K., and powerful coordinators, Mr. Amson Simon and Mrs. Rennie Wilson. And special thanks to Dr. Father Finosh Kitiga. He is risen for valuable resource person. Thank you, Father. Thank you for IQC coordinators and my dear colleagues, students, other dignitaries and participants. Once again, thank you to all for knowledgeable section. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Praveen sir, once again for a wonderful session. Thank you, Dr. K.L. Joy, Principal, Mr. Joffy TJ, Mrs. Alice N.K., Head of the Departments, students of our department. Thank you all the participants who have joined for this webinar. Once again, thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, Praveen sir. So we are winding
Okay,
up. Thank you, sir.
Right,
Okay,
very
sir.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.